I get to introduce myself. Hi, I'm Haley. Thank you. The first time I wanted to die, I was only 9 years old. Third grade, Mrs. Adams was my teacher. I probably didn't understand the word suicide, and I didn't think of killing myself exactly. I just thought about dying. Terminal illness, car accident, some other awful tragedy that would remove me from this world. I tried telling people this, and they thought it was silly, I guess, because what does a kid have to be depressed about? What they don't know is that 50% of us affected by severe mental health illnesses such as bipolar, schizophrenia, anxiety, depression, well, we start feeling those symptoms by 14, before some of us ever even hit puberty. I was diagnosed with anxiety as a young kid, maybe 11 or 12. The diagnosis came after I wore a heart monitor for a couple of months. It was easier, I guess, for people to believe that a child was capable of having a heart attack. Easier to believe that than to believe a child had anxiety so bad it affected their heart rate and ability to breathe, because that's what anxiety does to me. It manifests into these scary physical symptoms that make me feel like I'm dying, which sometimes I want, but mostly I don't. That's the thing about suicide, by the way. I don't believe I've ever really wanted to die. I've really just wanted the pain to stop, and when you're in that moment, it's hard to believe there's a difference between the two things. I was told once that 5 minutes inside of a suicidal brain can feel like eternity, and that's why I sometimes roll my eyes when someone tells me to just hold on during an episode of severe anxiety or depression. Like, gee, thanks, never thought of that. I survived a lot growing up. It took me a lot of years to realize what all I had gone through, and even now I'm still realizing it. I survived sexual abuse, rape, domestic violence, the loss of a child because of that domestic violence, emotional abuse, homelessness, poverty. I battled depression and suicidal ideations. I survived self-harm and multiple suicide attempts. Years ago, I might have told you I was a victim of those things, but not now, not anymore. Today, I tell you I survived because I'm a survivor. All of those events combined with the anxiety and depression that was already there, it was a catastrophe. Life felt hard, impossible, and there never seemed to be any hope or light at the end of the tunnel. But then there was. My hope came in the form of a man named Bill Mirabella. He fell in love with me, which made me fall in love with him too. And because of our love, along came a sweet little boy, Georgie. Bill was kind and sweet and took care of us. He was not cruel, he did not yell, he did not hurt me. He listened to my stories without judgment, told me I was better than the life I had been living. He promised to help me find a purpose. He helped me turn my self-harm into self-love 4 years together, and on July 4th, 2011, he dropped to one knee and asked me to love him forever. Unfortunately, forever lasted 3 months, 1 week, 4 days. I came home the morning of October 15th, 2011 to find Bill dead by suicide. The same demons he had helped me overcome were the ones that take him out of this world. My story doesn't end here, though. For a time, I thought it might. The morning of his burial, I wouldn't let them shut his casket until I used my hands to rub warmth back into his lifeless ones, and then I said farewell. My heart shattered, and giving up seemed like an easy alternative to going on without my best friend. But there was that purpose that Bill had promised to help me find, and in 2011, that purpose was 2 years old. That purpose was Georgie. It was tough, but it was not impossible. I cannot say the road from here to here has been full of pleasantries or beds of roses. There have been, in fact, many thorns and nights where I've stayed awake crying and reliving the worst moments of my life over and over. Days where the only thing I could do to survive was hold myself and remember that those feelings I was having would pass. Losing someone to suicide can be isolating. It was something my family didn't quite know how to talk to me about, something my friends didn't know how to comfort me over. So I actively sought out an event that would bring me to people who would know. I volunteered at an Out of the Darkness walk. Suddenly I was around people who knew, who understood, who were not afraid to talk about it. Bill had promised me a purpose, but he delivered too. Helping at an event where suicide loss was normalized and stigmas didn't exist, I felt at home. The following year, I joined the committee to not just volunteer at the event, but to help plan it. During planning, our small group became stumped when it came time to get a guest speaker. I can't tell you what my anxiety said to me when I found myself volunteering to speak. Let's just say my mind said a lot of F-bombs when I was confirmed as that year's guest talker. Have I mentioned that anxiety has this terrible, mean cousin named social anxiety? Talking in front of people, not really my thing. September 2013, City Park. I gave a 7-minute speech about how I'm both a suicide attempt survivor, living with depression, as well as how I survived the suicide loss of someone I love. People cried, people clapped, a weight left my body, and all of those people listening to my vulnerable words somehow became family. To this day, I will sometimes have someone approach me and tell me my words shaped how they view suicide. Since then, I've been able to share my stories in various places with so many people. Schools, churches, mental health professionals, survivors of suicide loss, to those fighting the good fight against mental illness, to strangers who have become friends, to those who no longer have to feel alone. I recently started therapy, something I put off for many reasons, one of them being fear. I told my therapist my story of all the things that I have been through. She cried for me in a way that few people ever have. She told me my trauma is severe post-traumatic stress disorder, she says. But more powerful than those stories of trauma is my want to persevere, to grow, to continue blossoming. She says my personal growth is incredible. She told me to be proud of myself. I still have my bad days, my hard days, my days where I call in sick because my brain is so damn messy, but be proud of myself, she says. See how much you have grown, acknowledge the growth. My main purpose is now 9 years old, giggly, feisty, and full of love. My second purpose has brought me here today in front of all of you, and for that I am grateful. I have learned through trial and error what it means to really care for myself. I take my medication, I go to therapy, I change my diet to brain-healthy food, like pizza and cake. I get that exercise. I remind myself to breathe. I ask for help when I need it, even though sometimes asking for help feels hard. I remind myself that it is an act of courage. I still have depression. I still have anxiety, but I have learned that they do not control me. I am in charge. I can control them. I have chosen happiness, and love has once again found me. Again and again and again. We struggle, but we do not give up. We fight, and while some battles are lost, the war is not. We are strong. We are fierce. We are brave.